Ever feel that surge of heat, that anger, that feeling that can make you feel like incredibly strong 1 second and then completely wiped out the next?
Yeah, anger. We all deal with it.
Exactly. So today, we're going to do a deep dive into Ephesians 4.26.
It's a verse that gives, well, a surprising amount of guidance on how to handle anger.
It even suggests that anger, get this, isn't always bad.
Right.
Pretty interesting, huh?
Yeah, so Ephesians 4.26 doesn't just, say anger is bad.
Right.
The whole verse is, be angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath.
Okay, so there's a way to be angry and not sin. I'm all ears.
Exactly. That's what makes this so fascinating. I mean, even Jesus, he got angry sometimes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Remember when he saw those merchants in the temple taking advantage of people?
Yeah.
He didn't just, ask them politely to leave.
No, he flipped those tables.
That's right. He overturned their tables. That was righteous anger,
Yeah.
It came from his love for God's house and his desire for justice.
That image of Jesus flipping those tables is powerful stuff. And it really drives home the point that, like you said, righteous anger can be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we know if our anger is that righteous kind or the kind that just leads to trouble?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And that's where the sin mart of the verse comes in.
Makes sense.
See, sinful anger is uncontrolled. It comes from our pride or our ego, not from a place of, true justice or righteousness.
Okay.
It can lead to outbursts, holding grudges, wanting to get even.
Oh, yeah, been there.
And all those things, they pull us away from God.
Yeah.
They mess up our spiritual growth.
I can definitely relate to that feeling of, holding on to anger and letting it fester.
Mm-hmm.
It's like holding a hot coal, you're the one who gets burned.
Exactly.
But the verse also says, let not the sun go down upon your wrath.
Right.
So why is it so important to deal with anger quickly?
Well, think of it this way. Anger that just hangs around, that festers, it creates this breeding ground for bitterness and resentment. That bitterness can take over your thoughts, poison your relationships.
Yeah.
It blocks you from experiencing God's peace and love. It's almost like you're giving Satan a foothold,
Yeah.
like it says in Ephesians 4.27.
Okay, so then how do we actually move from that anger to peace? It's easy to say, let it go, but actually doing it,
Right.
especially when you feel like your anger is justified, that's tough.
Absolutely. It is tough. That's where the practical steps from our source material come in.
Okay.
First, you got to take a look at yourself, self-reflection.
Yeah.
When you feel that anger rising up, hit pause. Just for a second. Ask yourself, what's causing this anger? Is it a genuine response to something wrong? Or is it my pride and ego taking over?
I can see how taking that moment to think could make a big difference.
Yeah.
It gives you the chance to choose how you react instead of just exploding.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes, even when I know I should let go, that anger just sticks around.
It happens. In those moments, the source really emphasizes prayer. Talk to God about your anger. Don't complain or try to get revenge.
Yeah.
Just hand that anger over to him. Ask for his wisdom and strength to let go. When we surrender our anger to God, that's when we open ourselves up to his healing and guidance.
I like that idea, that shift from letting anger control us to surrendering it to a higher power.
Yeah.
But what about when our anger is toward another person? Should we just forgive and forget?
Forgiveness is super important, but it doesn't mean ignoring the issue or letting someone keep hurting you. Your source talks about reconciliation.
Okay.
If your anger involves someone else, trying to work things out with humility and love is key.
Makes sense.
Matthew 5.23-24 says that making things right with your brother or sister is super important before you can even go to the altar and worship.
So it's about getting to the root of the problem, not just pretending it's not there.
Right.
But some people might say that confronting the person who hurt us goes against the whole idea of forgiving them. How do we forgive while also setting healthy boundaries?
Forgiveness and boundaries, they can actually work together. They're not opposites. Forgiveness means letting go of that bitterness you feel toward the person who hurt you. It's something you do for yourself, for your own spiritual well-being. Boundaries are about protecting yourself from being hurt again.
So it's about finding that balance between grace and protecting yourself.
Exactly. And even when forgiveness is really, really hard, Colossians 3.13 reminds us to bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone.
Yeah.
Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Remember, forgiveness isn't saying what they did was okay. It's about freeing yourself from that weight of anger. It's a journey, not a one-time thing.
This whole deep dive has been amazing. It's like we took this one verse and found so much wisdom and practical advice.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest takeaway is that we have a choice. We can let anger control us, or we can choose to turn it into something good for ourselves and for the world around us. So here's a question for you listening. What situations in your own life might need some of these ideas about righteous anger and forgiveness? What can you do today to move from anger to peace and reconciliation? Think about those things. And until next time.
See you then.